Hello everyone, are you ready for another adventure? It's me, Wokey, and I'm back with another Fate Grand Order video. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, today we're going to be talking about the Back to School campaign because all the info for it came out. I waited for the info to come out before talking about it, and now it's here, so let's talk about it. That's going to be today's video. I hope you like it. If you do, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It does help out the channel a whole bunch. So, Back to School campaign. It is starting on August 28th and going until September 20th, obviously because it's back to school. I always thought school started for me around September, but to be fair, it's been a very long time since I've had to go to school. And I think my school, from what I remember in middle and high school, usually started sometime in early September. I don't remember if we started in August. I do remember Halloween coming up pretty soon, but it was mostly me just kind of counting the days until Christmas, where it would be another break from school. But yeah, it starts on the 28th, goes to the 20th. We also did meet the campaign goal, so we are also going to be all receiving 5 summon tickets, 12 St. Quartz, a rare prism, and more, and these will be claimed when this goes up, and they'll be claimable until at least September 7th, so make sure to get that while you can. As far as the event information, the login bonus, there are 3. As you can see here, so it will go from day 1 all the way to day 23. On day 1, you get 1 summon ticket. Day 2, it's a St. Quartz. Day 3, it's 2 St. Quartz. Day 4 is 1 St. Quartz. Day 5 is 2 St. Quartz. Day 6 is a summon ticket. Day 7 is a golden apple. Day 5 is a 5 silver HP foes. Day 9 is 5 silver attack foes. Day 10 is 3 St. Quartz. Day 11 is again 5 silver HP foe, and day 12 is 5 silver attack foe. Day 13 is 3 St. Quartz. Day 14 is a golden apple. Day 15 is a golden apple. Day 16 is 3 St. Quartz. Day 17 is a golden apple. Day 18 is another golden apple. Day 19, 3 St. Quartz. Day 20, 21, and 22 are all a single golden apple. And then on finally day 23, 3 St. Quartz. So there we go. Plenty of nice stuff as long as you remember to constantly log in, which is not that hard unless there's a game you're playing elsewhere, in which case it does become very hard, as you just kind of forget when you're playing another game. A comeback login bonus, you can only receive this if you most recently logged in before July 28th, 2025, and you have cleared Fuyuki. This is a way to get people who are coming back into the game some more St. Quartz. There'll be a total of 30 St. Quartz all in all, and it's made to help them a little bit. We usually, who play every single day, don't get this because in theory, if you had been playing from at least July 28th, you would have easily already gotten 30 St. Quartz just by playing regularly. So this is only to help them who are in kind of a catch-up mode with us. And you'll also get some 1,000 friend points, a 5 EXP, 1 single 5 EXP, and a golden apple as well. So that's nice. Which on day 14 it changes to be 5 EXP and 5 golden apples. A limited time campaign, 2 times friend points when clearing quests. Very easy. You'll just get double friend points when you have a select a servant for support. And Start Dash campaign will be updated with new rewards for the duration of the campaign. This will mean that if you're just starting out in the game, you'll get a buttload of St. Quartz and tickets as well, along with QP friend points, a 5. I believe this is just regular 4 EXP. Actually, let me double check on this one. No, it's 5 EXP. Okay, cool. Yes, because of the shading. I should remember that because of the shading. Anyway, if you're just coming into the game, this is a great way to get a bunch of St. Quartz. If you just started the game slightly off before this, unfortunate because you're going to be missing this, but it should be okay for the most part because you have already gotten stuff kind of started out, and you shouldn't worry about it too much, I'd say. Though again, if you look at it, and it is a lot of St. Quartz. I usually don't like to look at this as a player who plays kind of from the beginning, because I just see a bunch of St. Quartz that I don't get. It is nice for new players, though, at least, because day 1 is 2 St. Quartz, day 3 is 3 St. Quartz, day 5 is 5 St. Quartz, day 4 is 7 St. Quartz, day 5 is 10 St. Quartz, day 6 is 15 St. Quartz, day 7 is 60 St. Quartz, day 8 is 5 St. Quartz, day 7 is 9 St. Quartz, day 10 is 9 St. Quartz, day 11 is 12 St. Quartz. I feel like I said 9 St. Quartz twice. Day 12 is 15 St. Quartz, day 13 is 25 St. Quartz, and day 14 is 50 St. Quartz. And you can see all the summon tickets that you're getting along the way, with there being 5 on day 1, day 2, day 3. There's 20 on day 7. On day 8, it's another 5 summon tickets, and then on day 14, it is 10 summon tickets. So it should help as you kind of get ready for upcoming banners, because let me tell you, if you're a new player, there are plenty of new banners to get ready for, especially because there's obviously Merlin coming in here, Gilgamesh, who is a big fan favorite, a lot of fan favorite servants, Castoria's coming up as well as Morgan. A lot of stuff they will take that St. Quartz gladly from you. Some master missions, limited time master missions, that will be here from the 28th to September 7th, and then the reward claim period will go until September 14th. The missions that are going to be there are add a new friend / follower. Adding 1 gives you 1 St. Quartz. When you add 2, it's 2 St. Quartz, and when you add 3, it's 3 St. Quartz. And they'll also make sure to give you 3 friend slots. So if you're like me and you have your friend slots constantly filled, don't worry, you can just fill those 3 new ones and you'll be good. Raise mash to level 30. You will already have this if your mash is already level 30. If you're not raising your mash, why are you a monster? Just hurry up and raise your mash. It's not that hard. Do 10 friend point summons will give you 2k friend points. Clear 1 quest arrow node will give you Bloom and Spring. Complete any Ember Gathering quest 1 time will give you 10 5 EXP. Completing any Training Ground quest 1 time will give you 1 Golden Apple. Complete any Treasure quest 1 time will give you 100k QP. Raise any Servant to level 40 is 10 5 EXP. Raise any Servant to First Ascension is 10 5 EXP. Clear Fuiki gives you 3 St. Quartz, and clearing Orleans will also give you 3 St. Quartz. And this is the event Craft Essence, which again came from the Spring New Masters Aid campaign. They're just, so even though we're going back to school, they could have really renamed us to like, hey, starting in school, but no, it's still Bloom and Spring. They might have changed it. Maybe this is just the wiki site keeping the name. I should double check that later to see if they changed the name, and maybe you can see in the comments if I leave anything whether or not they changed it. But yeah, there you go. Pretty simple stuff. The CE also isn't anything too crazy. It's just Master EXP plus 50. It's mainly there for collection. Like I said, the game update is some friend slots increased, and that is the basic information for the Back to School campaign. Now we get into the summon part of it, which there are going to be 2 banners featuring, 1 banner featuring Merlin and Emiya, and another banner featuring Gilgamesh and Astolfo. And the Merlin and Emiya banner will start on the 28th, and it will go until the 5th. The Gilgamesh banner will start on the 30th, and will go until at least the 7th. There you go, gotta look down here. And these are the ones. There was a 3rd banner in the Spring New Master Aid campaign, but as you can see here, that featured Saber. So Saber and Herc, unfortunate because actually, believe it or not, a lot of people would have actually preferred Herc over. It's a shame that they had to. This is why I kind of wanted them to replace Saber rather than not do anything, because we don't get a lot of banners just featuring Herc. I think we did most recently get a banner with Saber, which is the reason why we're not getting another Saber banner. But if we look at that one real quick, we'll see that that one has the other Emiya Assassin on it and not Herc. And Emiya Assassin is what I've just learned from someone who was excited to summon on it, has not been featured in a very long time. So I guess there was really no winning. Either Emiya Assassin didn't get featured and he hasn't had a banner feature very often, or if it was Herc and he just doesn't get very many for various reasons, whatever. Probably because he is just so strong and they don't want too many people to have him, is a guess anyway. Who knows, maybe they're just really bad at featuring 4 stars. Actually, I'm going to go with that, they're just really bad at featuring 4 stars. So for today, I'm only going to go over Merlin's banner, and even then I'm only really going to talk about Merlin because Emiya is pretty self-explanatory. And I'll save Gilgamesh and Astolfo for another video, maybe a little later on down the road, so I can do a quick video on Gilgamesh and Astolfo when it comes close to them being released. Okay, so to start, I'll just mention Emiya and take a quick look at him. I don't have to go over his entire skills. The reason I'm not doing it is because he's not limited, so he's featured on it a lot. And the other thing is that Emiya is just a fan favorite in general. There are some units where I feel like I don't really need to talk about him all that much, just because they're just so popular that it really doesn't matter what I have to say about him. Like Emiya, Archer, does it matter what he does? For a lot of people, it probably does matter for a good amount of people who want to use their boy and make sure that their boy is at top shape. But for a lot of people, just having them is good enough, and people are big enough fans of Archer that they'll pull on him regardless of anything. or even have him regardless of anything. Hell, some people who are just starting out likely when it came to select a free 4 just saw Emiya and said, ooh, Emiya, and picked them, and that's it. But Emiya is a very good unit. He is just kind of solid. The nicest thing about him is that they love to buff Emiya. This man has received an unbelievable amount of buffs. Just constant buffing. Which is funny because it feels like you can probably track how the meta is doing based off of where Emiya currently stands in it. If Emiya is a little bit weak, it means that the power creep has really advanced forward and they're due to give him a new buff pretty soon. If he's currently very strong, it means that they most recently buffed him to accordance of the meta of how it is right now. And if he's just good, it means that he's probably in a stable region and they're looking to maybe in another year or two probably give him another buff just to make sure he's top shape again. So it means that if you ever do get him, you get a lot of Sync Quartz just from having him. He's probably one of the few units that you can get in the game that can give you, that can kind of repay a lot of the Sync Quartz you get from just having him. It's funny to think about just because of how many he has as far as strengthening. I think we can look at it right here. Interludes and strengthenings. He has two interludes. And then if you go to strengthenings, he has 1, 2, 3, 4 strengthenings. A lot of Sync Quartz come with him. But yeah, he ends up being perfectly fine. If you like Emiya, I think you'll do fine with him. He has interesting mechanics like being able to change his Buster Noble Phantasm into an Arts one, which will hit a lot of times, but I believe that this only lasts for a single turn. Yep, for 1 turn, so who knows, maybe with the next buff he gets, he'll get buffed to this again. That'll make it stay for 3 turns. But either way, I think he's still solid. You can still use him in a lot of cases, and it's Emiya. You know, that's what more do you need to hear about him other than that. If you have any other specific thoughts on Emiya, because let me know, because I know for some units I talk about, I always assume that they're in a pretty good place, but they could also be a Muramasa case where I assumed that Muramasa was doing really good until a Muramasa fan let me know. So if you're a big fan of Emiya and you use him all the time, please let me know how you currently feel about him and if you feel he's due for a buff coming up soon. It's not a matter of does he get a buff, it's more he's gonna get one eventually, just because the record shows he's gonna get one eventually. Don't worry about it. And now the main focus of the banner, he's Merlin. So let's talk about Merlin. He is limited. He is a caster. He is also called the Magus of Flowers. He has 1 quick, 3 arts, 1 buster, 3 hits on quick, 2 hits on arts, 5 hits on busters, 6 hits on extra. His active skills are Dreamlike Charisma A, increases party's attack for 3 turns, charges party's MP gauge by 20%. The attack increase is 20%, and this is on a cooldown of 5. His second skill, which gets a strengthening later, we don't have this in the game yet. We'll get it in 2026, because JP got it in 2024, so that's when we are due to get it. And they actually got it pretty close to August, which means that we'll get it a little bit sooner than that, because I believe this was maybe a part of Anniversary. Yes, this was part of Anniversary. We will get this in July then. July of 2026. But anyway, his skill as it is for us right now is Illusion A, grants party invincibility for 1 turn, increases party's critical star generation rate for 1 turn, reduces all enemies' critical attack chance for 3 turns, 50% star rate, the crit chance lowering is 20%, and this is on a cooldown of 7. After strengthening, he gets an additional increases party critical star generation for 3 turns instead of 1 turn, increases party's critical damage for 3 turns, and then also charges their party's MP gauge by 10%. The crit damage that he gets from this is 50%, and that will again last you 3 turns. Third skill is Hero Creation EX, increases 1 ally's buster performance for 3 turns, increases their max HP for 3 turns, and then increases their crit damage for 1 turn, 50% to buster, 3000 increase to max HP, and then 100% crit damage on a cooldown of 6. His passive skills are Territory Creation C, Item Construction C, Mixed Blood EX, charges own MP gauge by 5% every turn. Third skill is an anti-berserker attack damage aptitude, because even though he goes with Buster Gorillas, it doesn't mean that he has to, I guess, like them, I suppose. And his Noble Phantasm is the Garden of Avalon, the Forever Sealed Utopia, rank C anti-unit arts Noble Phantasm. recovers party's HP every turn for 5 turns, charges party's NP gauge by 5% every turn for 5 turns. The HP at MP level 1, sorry, I don't know what was going on in my brain there. At MP level 1, the HP regen is 1000. If you get him all the way to MP level 5, it's 2000. And then his overcharge effect is it gains critical stars every turn for 5 turns. At charge 1, it's 5 star, and if you ever get him to the final charge level, it's 25. And believe it or not, the NPC version is different. Before we actually got him in the game, we got him in Babylon, and this version of Merlin has a slightly different Noble Phantasm. You'll see what they kind of changed. The only reason I want to bring it because I think it's actually fascinating. He now recovers party's HP on it, and he charges party's MP gauge by 5% every turn for 5 turns. Obviously, that stays. But the healing is 2,000 at MP level 1, and if you get him all the way to MP level 5, it's 3,000. And then on overcharge, he has the ability to recover a party's HP every turn for 5 turns, along with the gain crit stars. I just thought that was kind of fascinating, that he has a difference in Babylonia. I wonder if they thought that this was too good, and they figured, looking at his... maybe they thought it's like, this is too much for a unit that's already good. I would be really curious to hear what was their thought process behind it. But it is funny to think that you can still have this version of Merlin, but only if you use him in Babylonia as an NPC specifically. And then he also, for Ascension, has 2 outfits. He has one that's a full-on summer outfit, and another one that is just him wearing some nice shades. And his Bond CE is the Furthest Tower. When equipped to Merlin, increases party's Buster performance by 10%, increases party's crit damage by 15% while he is on the field. And that is Merlin. So how is Merlin? Well, Merlin is an interesting unit, just because when you look at Merlin, I feel like you have to look at the whole of Fate Grand Order in general. I think Merlin ends up being one of these units that when he released, he completely meta-warp changed the game. I don't think you understand, unless you were playing the game back then, how much Merlin changed everything. I always consider Merlin one of those units that usually drops in a gacha that just changes absolutely everything that you ever thought about the gacha, and you can never return from that point after it. For example, Gogeta in Dragon Ball Z Dokkan, and Super Vegito as well, when they introduced the God Leads meta, the idea of like, kind of changing it from that. Merlin, when he changed things from being about just using whatever units and along with waiver and being okay with it, he changed it to be kind of a buster heavy focused meta that lasted until the quick meta came in later. In Shonen Jump Ore Collection, a big game that I played back in the day, there was Dai, who absolutely changed the landscape because of his quick amount of skills, and it turned the game into a kind of slow progress of things into a game where it was all about the quickness and getting as fast as you could. But you can see what I'm saying here is that he's definitely a unit that changed a lot of FGO and shaped it into what it is now. Back in the day, we didn't have break bars. If you're a new player and you start going, why did they suddenly introduce break bars? It's because Merlin existed, and it used to be that if there was a 2 million hit boss, it was impossible to take them down. It would actually be kind of tough. And then Merlin came out, and then it stopped being tough at all. It became a joke to do that much damage in a single turn. So as the years went by, they started to also heavily hit Merlin in certain kind of sideways. For example, when Castoria came out, it wasn't a direct hit to Merlin, but it was definitely what I feel like... I guess Castoria today is what Merlin felt like back in the day, which he was an ultimate carry of the team. He had so much to give you in terms of his attack, in terms of defense. It was kind of insane. And nowadays, he kind of fits a little bit weirdly into Buster, only because he doesn't really work super well with Vich, because usually with Vich, you want to go double Vich. One of the things that kind of holds him back from being used with Vich is that you only really get 20% from MP gauge. On JP, you now get 30, which is a decent enough buff for sure. He's only missing 20% from being able to give a full 50%, but in general, you know, it's less to work with. And the other thing that kind of messes him up is that most of the time, Buster would prefer to have Oberon as the final unit. And you're thinking, Oberon is an overall... He's a buff to everyone, but he really wants to be used with Buster. That would be great if you could use him with Merlin. but Oberon specifically has a skill built into him that just says fuck Merlin and fuck you for using him. He will actively debuff Merlin and give you a 20% chance to fail your moves if you use them together, which I can show right here just so you don't think that I'm lying and you're going like, wait, what? He's done that? Since when? Yeah, he totally does do that. And it's also specifically only Merlin. Lady Avalon, who is Merlin, isn't affected by this debuff at all. Increases party's 500% chance to reduce the buff success rate of Merlin allies by 20% while self is on the field, including sub-members. It doesn't matter where he is, they're going to get the 20% chance of failure. And Merlin is currently the only Merlin in the game. So it ended up being that when Oberon was introduced and Vich was introduced, Vich introduced a new way to loop. You couldn't really loop with Merlin back in the day. Looping was more for challenge quest type scenarios. And so he couldn't really fit into looping. If you ever wanted to use Oberon, you could never use Merlin. So you kind of fell into this weird spot of like, only if you really needed him for a hyper defensive focused team would you really use him. And so he ended up needing a buff, and he ended up getting a buff, which the buff helps him a great deal. It helps him a little bit with the things that he's been kind of lacking, such as the additional not having a full 50% given to the party. He can now give him at least 30%, which is very nice. He still gives invincibility, but the important thing here is the crit damage, which he gives an additional 50% crit damage. That means if you're using 2 Merlins and you're combining them with the third skill, you can get over 300% crit damage on a single turn to that Buster unit, which means that you can really put in a lot of work with a Buster unit if you are using him correctly. So I think he ends up being in a pretty good spot right now. I feel like it was a little bit dire before this buff, where he was still definitely a really good unit, but then when you looked at like the upper echelons, it kind of was like you kind of fit really weirdly. But now I feel, at least with this skill, it's a good way of being like, it differentiates them a little bit more. And again, I will say, as far as challenging content is concerned, as much as I really like using Vich, I don't have a Merlin, so I have to use Vich. But if I had Merlin, I would use Merlin over Vich, just because Merlin provides so much defense for you. Giving your party invincibility on a single skill is just a great-ass skill to have, and the fact that this only gets better is great. In the old days, Challenge Quest, you used to be able to run a support unit that was similar to another unit on the team already. You can guess it was Merlin who specifically stopped that from being possible, because there was an entire, I think it was a Nero Fest where double Merlin was allowed, and it just trivialized everything. It became impossible to die, and then you just kept Buster smacking people with crit damage for a single turn and then stalling the game, and they're just like, you know what, fuck you, you can only have 1 Merlin now. So I think he's really good. Especially if you're considering if you want a more like Buster crit down focus kind of team, Merlin is kind of your way to go for it. And if you care more about defensive matters, you go for him there. And plus, Merlin is a fan favorite for a reason. It took me a while to come to terms with this, but I think I'm okay with the idea of them continuing to buff Merlin, just because Merlin really is just such an important part of this game. You don't realize how much of it was shaped by Merlin, and how much of it is just like, it's a little bit sad. You know, like the years of what we went through where Merlin was not as good as he was, and he had fallen off, especially post-Vich, post-Oberon, post-Castoria, this like era where Merlin was just kind of like, yeah, you can use him if you want, but it's probably not the greatest in it, and you'll have a little bit of a hard time. It's weird to think about, just because I do think he is super important to the game, so I'm kind of, he's made me turn around my idea of never buff the strong, you should only buff the weak. I'm kind of into the idea of like, no, if a unit is important enough to the history of FGO, to FGO itself, I think it warrants a little bit of a buff here and there. Who knows, maybe he could get a little bit more of a buff so he can just get that a little bit. The only thing that I really don't like about Merlin currently is that he still doesn't have many skills that last longer, at least 3 turns. Like, he has a little bit more now post-buff, since now the critical star generation rate lasts 3 turns, the crit damage lasts 3 turns, and he gets, he's able to reduce enemies' crit chance for 3 turns, and a little bit of attack here, but I think a little bit more, and the Buster increased by 1 is nice, but maybe a little bit more for 3. Actually, he has max HP for 3 turns. Maybe he's perfectly fine. Maybe I'm just being a hater. Maybe I'm being a hater on this. Let's not go too crazy with the buffs to Merlin, I suppose. But anyway, that's Merlin. I think he's a really good unit. If you're a brand new into the game, should you go for Merlin? I think you'll be pretty solid off with Merlin. The only thing that I would say is that we are getting Castoria on September 10th. Why do I know this? It's because, thankfully, the JP version of the game, which I can look at real quick, if you don't know this, you should get notice to this pretty quick. So obviously we know what happens in JP. In JP in October was a 3,000 day celebration, and this was the banner that had a Castoria rerun and a Morgan rerun, starting with Morgan and then Castoria. The thing is, 3,000 days for us isn't in October. It's September 10th. The reason being is, oh my god, I've completely messed up everything. It's okay. Let me go back up. Our 2,900 days was sometime in right here, June 2nd. 100 days from June 2nd is September 10th. So that is when we are likely getting that. So you have less time than you need. And with the idea of, like, if it were me and you're saying which support would you rather have, Merlin or Castoria, I'm kind of leaning towards Castoria. But that's just me. I just feel like it's easier for you in general if you have Castoria, and it makes your game easier. But again, if you're a big fan of Merlin, then I'm not going to stop you from going for Merlin. I know for a fact a lot of people were waiting for Merlin back when he was first supposed to come here around Draco's time, and we're ready for it and we're prepared for it. And for them, I wish you all the best of luck. I hope you get them. Hell, I even want Merlin because I have Quetz, and in order to get the maximum value of my Buster crits out of Quetzalcoatl, I need Merlin. A Vitch does perfectly fine, and Oberon does too with the bonus damage, but if I want maximum crit damage, I'm going to have to look to Merlin if I want that. But anyway, that's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any additional thoughts about Merlin, feel free to leave them down below, because again, like I said, I don't have Merlin. All I can tell you is about the basic history and what I currently feel about him, but it's different from using him. I still occasionally, the only time I ever used Merlin, especially back in the Buster meta days, was if a friend had him, and I would use my waiver and a Merlin. And now in the modern day, it's very hard to find a Merlin on a friends list. They don't show up for me very often. The only ones that I see them on there are Common, who's a friend of the friend of the channel. I think he still has his Merlin up. My brother, I think, still has his Merlin up as a support. But in general, the Merlin supports are kind of few and far between as far as I can see, which is a little bit sad. But hopefully when he gets that buff, a little more will come this way. And who knows, when the Grand system comes in, maybe some people are like, fuck it, I'm giving my Grand to Merlin. I don't care. I'm giving it, I could give it to any caster in the world, and I'm going to choose to give it to Merlin. Let's go. But that's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I wish you the best of luck on your summons, whatever it may be. And until next time, I wish you all the best of luck. I'll see you in whatever the next video may be. It's going to be a very busy work week for me this week. All my work starts super early, which is kind of annoying, but I'm going to try and get my videos done that I can when I can. And get them ready to release and everything. But thank you very much for watching. As always, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel. I'm pretty close to getting to 5,000, and by close, I mean I think I'm like 300 subs away or so. Which I never thought that I would reach, because I reached 4,000 this year. And I was like, okay, well, it'll take me another year and a half to get to 5,000, because that's about the length it took me to reach 1,000. And I was surprised to see how quickly it's been able to go up. And I can only thank you guys for actually subbing. It means a lot to me. Thank you. And I'll see you guys next time. That's enough from my rambling. Till next time, peace out and goodbye. Peace.